Hey, Net Profit, thanks so much for having me. It's a little intimidating to be the last speaker of the day. It's been an incredibly inspiring day, and I'm very excited to hopefully get you guys excited about Africa's exploding tech scene and the opportunities around it. Yeah, my name's Michael Szymanski. I run the MEST Seed Fund in Accra, Ghana, and also help lead the incubator. And so the foundation that supports our program is called the Meltwater Foundation. It runs the Meltwater Entrepreneurial School of Technology, otherwise known as MEST. And our vision is to create wealth and jobs in Africa by training and mentoring young Africans to start globally successful software companies. And I really want to stress globally successful. We're not looking for lifestyle businesses. So how do we do this? We have a 3-phase program that includes training, seed funding, and incubation. So in our training program, really the idea behind the 2-year training program is the first year is really focused on hard skills. So each year we get about 800 applicants for 20 or 25 spots. So it's much harder statistically to get into our program than Harvard or Oxford or all the rest. And we select for the individual. They're all university grads, and we look for people that are passionate about entrepreneurship, that want to build something, and then ultimately, some have a technical background, some don't. And then during the first year of the training program, we really focus on the hard skills. So teaching kind of the business basics, how to do financials, strategy, marketing, accounting. And then on the tech side, we teach them to code, and then really we teach them how to teach themselves different languages. And then the third part is more of a leadership communications training. And a large part of what we do is focus on bringing a global perspective to Ghana. So we're asking them to build global businesses, and most of our entrepreneurs haven't spent a significant amount of time outside of Ghana. So it's a tall order. So we do that in several ways. We bring in fellows from around the world that implement our curriculum. We bring in senior faculty from around the world to train and mentor our entrepreneurs. And then the final phase of the training program, the last year, there's a shift from more of a traditional classroom context to more trying different ideas, exploring, inventing, and starting to take ideas from idea stage to prototype, working with different teams. And then the last 6 months is really a period of pre-incubation. So during that time, the entrepreneurs form the teams that they want to take forward. They finalize on an idea. We connect them with Oxford MBAs that mentor them remotely to help them build their business plans. And they prepare for their final exam. And their final exam is a pitch to our seed fund and incubator. So we're lucky to bring in guests from around the world on a quarterly basis to share a global mindset. We were fortunate enough to convince Mike Butcher to come and spend 4 days with us last year at our graduation, and great things have kind of come of that. So this is our incubator space. We're currently housing 10 companies, and I want to talk a little bit about what we focus on in terms of funding. So I mentioned before, we're not focused on lifestyle businesses. So we want to create 10, 20, 50, $100 million companies. And I know that's a big request of our entrepreneurs, but that's really what we're focused on. So we're looking for all of the similar things that a VC or angel would be looking for: growing market, big market size, the competitive landscape, good go-to-market strategy. And then, so once we invest, the entrepreneurs come to our training program. We invest anywhere from $30,000 to $200,000, take a minority equity stake in the company, and then work very closely with them to build those companies. And in the early stages, it's folks like me working very closely with the entrepreneurs to help them build their basic strategy. After the pitch, they usually go back to their product and revisit it, take sort of the quick MVP that they've built and build out and make their tech more robust. We do the same thing with the business plan, and then help them go to market. So we assist in negotiating partnership deals, developing strategies, pricing strategy, and then usually our funding gives them about 18 months of runway, at which time we hope they're growing quickly and they're cash flow positive, and hopefully we can raise an external round. So that's kind of where we're at, and we also connect them with a number of different mentors and advisors. So once they have the basics down in the business, we look for industry-specific advisors. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then another big part of what we try to do is give them global exposure. So either pitching at events like TechCrunch Disrupt, or spending some time in incubators in San Francisco or London. So why are we doing this? Well, so it all started with the gentleman in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. His name's Jorn Lysogen. This is his vision. So he's the CEO of the Meltwater Group, and it was also his idea to create the Meltwater Foundation and MEST. So Jorn came from pretty humble beginnings. He was born in South Korea, adopted to Norway when he was young, grew up on a dairy farm in a 200-person village, and so he got involved in tech though. So from this tiny place in Norway, he was able to leverage technology with relatively little capital and go to global markets. So Meltwater was his third successful startup, and in the first few years of starting the company, he had this idea to give other people the opportunity that he had to leverage software to build global businesses. So he was talking to a friend of his, and his friend said, "You have this idea. Don't wait until you retire to do it. Don't wait until you sell Meltwater. Do it now, because tomorrow you could be hit by a bus and then the world will never get this program." So Jorn decided right then, let's do it. He made the announcement to the company. He didn't know how we were going to do it, but he said, in 1 year from now, we're going to have a training program for software entrepreneurs in Ghana, or in Africa. We hadn't decided on Ghana yet. And that was it. So the organization got busy setting up the program, and here we are today. So another reason that we do it is we have a fundamental belief in people, and this really stems from the idea that talent is spread equally across the world, but it's a matter of opportunities that aren't. So we're trying to bridge that gap. We believe that any one of our portfolio companies could become a Google or Facebook. Even if they don't become a Google or Facebook, we're thinking pretty big. So we want them to become those successful $50, $100 million companies someday. And we don't think that being from Ghana is any reason that they can't. The second piece is creating a demonstration effect. There's been a whole generation inspired by Michael Essien, a whole generation of young South African footballers that have seen Essien's rise through the Premier League. And so we want to do the same thing, but for tech entrepreneurs. So we want those 8-year-old kids to look up to folks like Robert and Badu, the co-founders of Seya, and say, hey, look at them, they've been successful. Maybe if I learn how to code, I could be like that, rather than if I practice football every day, I could be like Michael Essien. We're all familiar with this image. 10 years ago, The Economist, the hopeless continent. And so they've changed their tune, Africa Rising, and they recently had this special report on aspiring Africa. And there are a lot of reasons to be hopeful for Africa. IBM just set up its most recent research lab in Nairobi, and Eric Schmidt came to Africa, and he was really excited. He visited in early 2013, and he pointed out 3 really positive trends that are going on in Africa. So one is Africa is increasingly democratic, and we're getting better rulers. 2, there's a huge demographic boom of young people that can be leveraged for growth. And then 3, mobile phones are becoming ubiquitous. Everywhere you go, people are accessing the internet through mobile phones in Africa. So he summed it up with this statement: the demographic dividend in Africa of young people is their greatest hope. In my opinion, this new generation expects more and will use mobile computing to get it. Powerful statement. And so all of the trends are in Africa's favor. There's a huge wind behind these sails. So the population is set to double by 2050. We're seeing a rising middle class, and that middle class is going to reach 1.1 billion by 2060. And consumer spending is going to be doubling in the next 10 years. So this is a population that's growing quickly, that's spending more, is more well off. And you look at the fastest growing economies in the world, 7 of 10 are African. A lot of that is resource wealth, of course, but increasingly there's a push from the creatives. And there's more products coming out of Ghana rather than just relying on extractive industries. Africa's more connected. The fiber optics are going through the continent, increasing bandwidth availability, increasing the speed of access via mobile phone. So on the mobile space, there huge growth in the feature phones with internet access and the smartphone market. Right now, Africa is the fastest growing mobile market, and people aren't buying non-internet accessible phones anymore. It's hard to find them. So, we see all of the growth in the feature phone market and then increasingly in smartphones. And this is a way for Africans to connect to the world. And that's resulting in huge GDP increases. 10% increase of mobile phone penetration increases middle to low income countries by 1.2% in GDP. And it's all just about being plugged in to have access. You look at mobile money, Africa is the leader in mobile money, and it's so exciting. Africa's doing double the volume of mobile money than North America. 33% of Kenya's GDP passes through mobile money. That's super exciting. So we have this convergence of trends, increasing mobile, increasing young population. There are creatives that are putting out content, and then there's now a way to monetize this. So I just want to talk a little bit about what some companies are doing with these trends. So Letty Games is one of our portfolio companies, and I think they're a great example of the changing nature of young people in Africa. These guys are creatives. They're doers. They're not just consuming content. They're putting out content for Africa and the world to benefit from. So what they're doing, Letty is taking traditional African legends and turning them into modern-day superheroes. And so they're doing that through a comic series, digital comic series that's available for download on phones, and then they're creating games around those superheroes as well. And I love Aram, the CEO of this company. He always says, Mike, Africa deserves superheroes. And I couldn't agree more. Aram's thinking big. He's like, Batman or Spider-Man is going to call Anansi to help defuse a bomb. So these guys are thinking big, and I think it's very exciting what they're doing. And handset manufacturers think it's exciting too. So Africa's the last big growth market for these handset manufacturers. So you see folks like Microsoft, Intel, Google, they're developing devices specifically for the African market, but they need to be locally relevant. So how do they do that? They need content. Letty has a big role to play in this, and other content producers do too in Africa. And then you look at the telcos. Telcos are seeing their SMS revenue drop very quickly. Everyone's going to data. They need ways to encourage people to use data. What better way to do that than through gaming, video? You look at the boom of Nollywood. Nollywood's $1 billion industry. Another one of our companies that's leveraging these trends, in the next 7 years, there will be 220 million people joining the labor force in Africa. That's a lot of jobs to fill and create. So what Empower is doing is they've created a simple mobile application that can create a very light version of a CV for blue-collar workers. And then they connect those blue-collar workers with job openings. And it's a pain point on both sides. Never before have blue-collar workers in Africa had a way to track their work history, to gather recommendations, to promote themselves. I think that this is incredible, and it's a need. We need to fill these jobs. And I think that Empower will be the LinkedIn for blue-collar workers in Africa. One thing that's interesting, I saw Eric Hirschman talk in Berlin a couple weeks ago, and he's created a new device called Brick through Ushahidi, and it's a way for people to connect to the internet and have a power supply even when the lights go out. And one thing that he said that struck me was, if it works in Africa, it'll work anywhere. And that's true in technology as well. So a company like Saya, which is another one of our portfolio companies, shameless plugging of our portfolio companies, but so they've developed a mobile application that works on feature phones as well as smartphones. So they're basically a WhatsApp, but also for kind of the rest of us. And in their early alpha launch, I think they were expecting 2,000 users, maybe in Ghana, to download the application. They saw 80,000 users over a 2-month period, 9 million backlogged invitations. And what surprised us the most was most of this growth was coming from Southeast Asia, from Indonesia, Singapore, from the Philippines. So even in the tech space, when you're creating solutions that work in Africa, oftentimes they're meeting other needs around the world. So I think a differentiator of our model is about half of our companies are focused on global opportunities. So take a company like Retail Tower. They have an app that sits on Shopify, Magento, OS Commerce, BigCommerce, all these big e-commerce platforms. And they allow small and medium-sized merchants to take their product inventory from their personal websites and promote it through online comparison shopping engines. So they allow these small and medium-sized merchants to list on Google Shopping, Amazon, Shopzilla, Sell.com, and about 15 others. And right now they have 10,000 merchants, small and medium-sized merchants, that rely on their service to sell products online. They have a preferred solution provider agreement with Amazon. They're one of only 6 data feed providers to have that relationship with Amazon. Not bad for a team of 5 tech entrepreneurs in Ghana that have never bought or sold anything online themselves. I think Retail Tower proves what can be built from Africa and serve the world. And it's a huge market out there. Why let the vast majority of the world's GDP for Americans and Europeans to capture? And this is just a quick look at their merchant demographics. Majority in North America, 30% in Europe, and then Asia and South America are growing quite quickly as well. So I actually met these guys, MoneySmart, on the plane coming here, and I think that they're a super exciting company. They're revolutionizing the way that people interact with their money. They're based here in Cape Town, and what excited me the most about these guys, they're focused on the South African market for now, but they're thinking globally right away. They're thinking European markets, but I think what's even cooler is they're also thinking about what other African markets can we attack. And I think too rarely South African companies, they just sort of pass up the rest of Africa and miss out on some of those big opportunities in the investor realm as well. So I think that it's an exciting approach that these guys are taking. One of our companies that we invested in about a year and a half ago just joined the most recent cohort at 500 Startups with Dave McClure. It's the first time that an African company has been part of 500 Startups. And again, they're a global business. They have 5,000 small businesses that rely on their service to interact with customers. And currently they're building out sort of a light Salesforce model, and they're in Silicon Valley, living it up, working very hard, and starting to pitch to investors. And they've gotten accolades from Forbes, one of the top African tech companies, from TechCrunch, and they've been doing quite well. So what does the space need? So this is one thing that comes up a lot, and I'm kind of glad that before we were talking a little bit about the plight of VCs as well. Money's an issue, but it's not the only thing. I think a big part is bringing the right investors together. A lot of US European investors are interested in Africa, but they don't know where to start, or they don't have the local presence. They know how to build scalable tech companies, but they don't know where to start in Africa. Here in Ghana and maybe a bit in South Africa as well, there are investors that are present, hands-on, connect, know the scene, but maybe they don't have as much experience building scalable tech companies. So I think it's very powerful when you can bring in Silicon Valley investors as well as local investors to have a huge impact. And just briefly, this is VC4A, Venture Capital for Africa. They're working on a network to do just that. So they have more than 1,000 vetted entrepreneurs that have kind of online profiles through their system. And VC4A is focused on bringing European, American investors to connect with local investors to do deals on the continent. And you go onto their website, there are some very exciting companies there, huge opportunities. So we also need networks, networks of mentors and advisors, both at the local level and the international level. And I think that on the local level, I would plead with successful local entrepreneurs, spend the time developing your own ecosystem. We know you're busy and you're kind of big men, but we need you to spend the time, invest in local talent, invest in young talent. I think we almost find it easier to bring Silicon Valley advisors over to work with our companies than recruit local ones. But on the international scale, people love getting involved, and I think there are a lot of ways to connect what's going well in Silicon Valley or Europe to the African scene. And one initiative doing that in training people and building sort of tech hubs is AfriLabs. So AfriLabs is a network of tech hubs from around the continent. Quick shout out to our labs. I saw a bunch of you guys around here today. We're a member of this initiative. And we're seeing some really exciting things around the continent. Small groups of tech entrepreneurs are forming across the continent, learning skills, building businesses, solving local problems. So the last point that I'd like to make is we need to do so much more to celebrate entrepreneurship. I don't know about South Africa, but in Ghana, entrepreneurship isn't the most sexy career path. In Silicon Valley, definitely. If you're a tech entrepreneur, you're a rock star. But in Ghana, the traditional occupations, banking, if you have an engineering degree, parents are pleading, oh, just work for that engineering firm, have something more safe and stable. So I think that we need to do a lot to encourage tech entrepreneurs to follow that path and celebrate what's going well. So having folks like Mike writing TechCrunch articles about the scene, having our companies pitch in international competitions, it's all very powerful. So my last message is we can't think too big. There's so much opportunity out there, and our location in Ghana or in Kenya or in South Africa shouldn't hold us back in any means. So let's think big. Let's build amazing companies in Africa. Thanks.